We asked our world-class researchers what their favorite orchestrated moment in history was, and here's what we found out.
It took me a long time to think about this one.
I really can't think of any specific one.
It's difficult to pick a favorite orchestrated moment.
Oh my goodness. There's not a favorite. There's not a favorite.
This is an impossible question.
It took some convincing, but eventually we got answers out of them.
Was when listening to the Claudio Abbado recording of Brahms.
In Mahler's Symphony No. 2.
Je crois que le passage le plus incroyable de l'histoire de la musique, je le trouve chez Strauss.
Pictures in an Exhibition, the orchestra version by Ravel.
A piece from Claude Champagne, it's called La Symphonie Gaspésienne.
Right now I'm gonna go with the first 30 seconds of Caterpillar by The Cure.
I honestly think of Jimi Hendrix's Star Spangled Banner.
There doesn't seem to be a consensus on composer or style. Instead, it's more about the way composers and musicians manipulate timbre to create orchestral effects.
In Roger Reynolds' piece, The Angel of Death, in the fifth thematic element, there's a long lyrical phrase, basically, which is one of the most beautiful Klangfarben melodies that I've ever heard in my life. And it basically passes from group of instrument to group of instrument. And each group is actually a sort of a transforming blend. The instruments are coming in and out, and it's creating this very wonderful texture and change in the actual timbral color, which then passes over to another group and so on. And it's absolutely astoundingly composed and really emotionally powerful.
Stephen mentioned timbre augmentation, which refers to the enhancement of a particular timbre without losing its recognizable timbral characteristics. But are there other concepts related to timbre and orchestration that produce an amazing musical moment?
That was the first time that I realized how colorful an orchestra piece can be.
Because it is polytonal, polyrhythmic, really funky.
But I really do love the way that it uses all the richness of the orchestra and also all this layering which is possible, different things happening at the same time.
There's just some really interesting combinations, and I really enjoy how Takamitsu explores resonance in this piece.
Okay, so we're slowly getting a sense of what timbre experts listen for in music. Now let's hear what composer Roger Reynolds has to say about a piece by a composer most of us might know.
One is the return in the Allegretto movement of Beethoven's Symphony No. 7 as a kind of proto-Weberian Klangfarben process of the conjunct and continuous variation theme stated traditionally in the opening section of the Allegretto. And the introduction is as sumptuous, as immersive, as vocally based, choral based, as would be possible. In other words, it's full of homogeneity. And the shocking aspect of the return is that that homogeneity is totally absent. And he moves almost couplet by couplet or half bar by half bar from brass to woodwinds to et cetera, et cetera. The notion, right, that a return should not be more but rather less immersive, and that the return should teach you about how little you understood when you first heard this material. It's a kind of bottomless fascination.
Now, it is interesting to examine the effects produced by the orchestration strategies employed by composers.
Everyone starts on that single note, and it just is this color change over time that then just flowers out in pitch and, of course, changes in dynamic and timbre.
And then suddenly the choir set in and was barely audible. So it was a perfect blend of orchestral choir, and that extended over the next minutes, and they were in perfect synchronicity in music and timbre and everything. How can that be? And being a choir singer and conductor, I wondered how they did that to get this impression of this perfect music. And it fit so nicely the text and the intention of the composition That was really one of the moments where I said, wow, that's a challenge to really do it that way. And I was deeply impressed that this is possible.
With responses spanning from the classical to the contemporary periods, including rock, electronic, folk, and even soundscape compositions, we notice that one of the most salient aspects of orchestration relates directly to the listener's affective response to the music. In other words, how the music makes them feel.
There is a particular moment in music that always really reaches to the deepest of my emotions, and that is in Mahler's Symphony No. 2, in the finale, when after the orchestra has been playing the entire last movement, which is a long movement, and all of a sudden it seems to come to a stop, and then all of a sudden the huge choir comes in a cappella, sotto voce, singing Auferstehen, resurrect, and that is a fabulous moment that is really very, very eerie for me. And then a bit later, a couple of minutes later, when the choir sings once again that same melody, Auferstehen, and the organ joins all the other instruments of the orchestra, that is really a fantastic moment, and it's one where I always get goosebumps.
One that actually combines styles, and I think that's why it's interesting for me. It's a Bulgarian folk song sung by a opera, like classically trained soloist, with the traditional Bulgarian women choir in the background that is singing that was originally the song, and it's orchestrated with the Sofia Philharmonic. And there's a traditional Bulgarian kaval, which is kind of equivalent of bagpipe going on in the background. So that's all at the same time. It's a mixture of styles and genres, and it's just beautiful. It's so many things at once for your color palette.
If you didn't notice, that was me talking about my favorite orchestrated moment in history. Up until now, we've talked about timbre manipulation, as it takes place in orchestration practice and the emotional response we have to it. We've also learned that these ideas apply to all genres and historical periods. Let's hear what Caroline Traube, researcher at Université de Montréal, has to say about her favorite moment in orchestration history.
La musique de Ligeti, donc la pièce Atmosphère, qui est un exemple assez incroyable de construction sonore. Donc, c'est un usage qui était complètement innovant pour l'époque. Donc, c'est une pièce qui a été composée en 1961. Et Ligeti, avec cette pièce, qui d'ailleurs a été connue du grand public par son utilisation dans le film de Kubrick, 2001, l'Odyssée de l'espace, Ligeti utilise les instruments de l'orchestre pour construire une texture sonore extrêmement complexe. À certains moments de la pièce, tous les instruments ont des choses différentes à jouer. Et donc on arrive à une texture, tous les flux sonores s'entrelacent. C'est une pièce dans laquelle en fait le timbre est le paramètre principal, qui donne en fait une impression d'immobilité, alors qu'à l'intérieur de la texture, on a un mouvement extrêmement complexe de toutes les lignes instrumentales.
When I said earlier, all genres and historical periods, I really meant it. Let's hear what percussionist Martin Daigle has to say.
That moment is very interesting. It's like a reorchestration of a very commonly known piece of music, and it also adds in a lot of feelings from the war and like bombs and stuff like that. So I think it's because it is packed with so much emotion that it is such an important moment for me. And it's only one person playing, but it means so much.
We started this video by asking several music scholars what their favorite moment in orchestration was, and we were able to identify various guiding concepts which are fundamental in creating a memorable musical experience. With all this in mind, what is your amazing moment in music?